Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. This is the first episode of 2020. Yeah, we haven't had a release in, a month, but between holidays and stuff going on with myself personally, a bathroom renovation, an unfortunate passing of a very, very close friend of mine, and of course, I think I said the holidays. We always say the circus came to town. That's my family. And my wife's family, so that all happened, and we just ran out of time. So, first episode of 2020, episode number 34, and we're going to have some fun with this one. It's fun, but it's kind of serious at the same time. So, keeping your mortgage person happy. Yes, there is a way to do this. So, this whole episode is going to talk about how to make sure you're presenting documents to your mortgage person. And I think this is very much geared towards the self-employed and investors, which for most of you probably know I deal with. A majority are investor clients, as in they're purchasing investment properties. So the whole episode is documentation, hints and tips around getting the right documents into your mortgage lender. And I set some context as to why we need certain things and the benefits of that, and just what can happen and how things can be better for you if me as your mortgage person is working on your application and not being Sherlock Holmes trying to put things together and figure things out. So great episode, especially again, if you're an investor or self-employed. So without further ado, here we go with, me.
Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. Finance, life, business, and everything in between. And now, your host, Stephen Green.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. This one we're going to have a little bit of fun with. It's called Keeping Your Mortgage Person Happy. Let's just call this my wish list for you for 2020. Okay? There is no video simulcast with this. It's just strictly audio. Still on YouTube. You just get to look at my smiling face for the whole duration, but only audio. I just want to go through some of the common things I run into in particular when I work with investors. So as you probably know with me, I deal a ton with investors in particular. So, and along with that comes investors. It's very document intensive for the most part when we're talking about mortgage lending. So the world has changed. I know back in the day, you'd show up, smile, here's a few documents, and boom, you've got a mortgage. It's just not like that anymore. There's full disclosure. There's everything the bank wants to know about you. And unfortunately, it comes in the form of documentation. So I want to spend this episode talking about how to keep your mortgage person happy. How can you present your documents and yourself to your mortgage person so that, not only, and I say it tongue in cheek, keeping your mortgage person happy, but how do you present yourself so that you come across as an organized, in tune with what you're doing, professional, and again, I'm going to indicate investor, okay? The same goes for self-employed. So yes, for our self-employed clients, there's a ton of different documents that we need. Some are very simple, and I know the clients who are on top of things because most items, especially in this digital age, are at their fingertips. So I heard one person say one time, and I wish I could remember, she was speaking in front, I know it was a lady, and she was speaking in front of a room of investors. So there was a full conference center room. And the one thing she said to them was, do you want your mortgage person working really hard on your approval, or do you want your mortgage person trying to go through documents and be a bit of a detective and, try to put, all the pieces to a jigsaw together what would you rather have them be doing? And I think she asked for a show of hands, and everyone said, well, we want them working on our application. So, again, this episode is geared to help you, self-employed, investor, anyone who has, let's say, a more complex deal to present to your FI, your financial institution, just to help you figure out exactly what most of them are looking for. So let's get on with it. First thing, and again, I don't have any. I have a list of documents I want to talk about, but I don't have any slides to show. So make sure you've got a pen and paper, because there's a lot of really neat little tidbits here that can help you. And if you're an investor, could help you even get more mortgages. Especially again, if you present well, there's a great opportunity for you. So let's get on with the very first document, the ever popular T1 General and Notice of Assessments. So whether you are self-employed, whether you are an investor with existing investment properties, the bank always wants to see your complete T1 Generals. So from my experience, I always ask for the complete T1 Generals. That is your tax return. In the tax return, the first few pages are definitely a summary. Then it goes through the federal return, the provincial return, and then it goes through statement of real estate rentals if you have existing rentals, statement of business activities if you're self-employed, a sole proprietor, and then it has all the other sort of stuff, everything from possible child support, worksheet, RSP worksheet, investment, etc., etc. So what I always do, and I'm going to give some context as to why the bank and myself, why we ask for these documents too. I always ask for the complete T1. And the reason for that is almost without fail. If I ask for just the first few pages and say just the statement of business activities, or a statement of real estate rentals is a better example, there's a page here missing, there's a page there missing. I just had a recent application where I received some of those documents. I tried to say, hey, this is all I really need to try to help the client a little bit, but then there was a page missing here or there, and again, we get back to being detectives trying to put your documentation together. So it's very simple. We just say, give us your complete T1. We will take out the documents we don't want. Many of you use an accountant. They all keep copies of your tax return. So it's not uncommon for the accountant just simply email you the copy of your tax return. Nothing wrong with that. And then I can extract whatever I need. Again, that helps me. If I know I've got a complete T1, I can just go in, take what I want, and off we go. Instead of, again, trying to put the jigsaw together. So we always ask for complete T1 Generals. The other part of it is your notice of assessment. So yes, we need the complete notice of assessment. And if you owe taxes, everybody wants to know you paid your taxes. I always joke that the lending institution may mess with some people, the government's not one of them. So you got to make sure you got your taxes paid, because for the most part, banks won't lend to you unless they know that your taxes are paid. So notice of assessment, yes, we need that. Now, both the T1 Gen and the NOA, Notice of Assessment, for the most part, you can also get it offline too, or online, because most people do have online access to all of their Canada Revenue Agency, CRA information. So that's okay too, as long as, it's going to sound crazy, make sure your name's on your Notice of Assessment. So remember back in grade 5, that kid who never put his name on anything? That sometimes happens. So just make sure your name is on all of your documentation. Another one that we look for, so assets. Bank is always wanting to verify your assets. So not your bricks and mortar, because we verify that in other ways, but we want to know how much money you have. RSPs, tax-free savings, bank accounts. I tell a lot of my clients these days, gone are the days of having $2-3 million in mortgages and $20 in the bank. So the bank wants to know, how much money do you have? And so when you do print off or when you do send documents, you always want to make sure that It's the complete length of history that we're asking for. And also make sure, and this is very, very critical, that your name's on it. You'd be surprised, again, a lot of no-name stuff. Now, in everyone's defense, I think a lot of online banking systems, RBC might be one of them, sometimes they print off, or when you go into your online banking, you can print off the history, but it leaves your name off it. I get it. I understand it totally. It doesn't mean that we can skip the steps. So we need to make sure that whatever you send in to us or whatever you present us with, it has your name on it. Okay, so very, very important. Name and whatever length of history. I know that a lot of banking websites let you extract an Excel file. We can't accept that because that can be manipulated. So it's got to be a regular bank statement, again, with your name on it. Okay, so everything always, always, always name on it. Another common one, property tax bill. So property tax bill is how we verify how much you pay in property taxes. Also confirms ownership, and it also confirms the assessed value. So where this is important is when we want to verify what you can and can't afford, and we also want to verify what your asset is worth. Now, I totally understand assessed value is lower than market value. That's a whole other podcast. But that is, for most banks, kind of a jump-off point, and then they work the number from there. So just keep that in mind. We need the property tax bill with all those details. So if I get some examples of documents I get in error, the annual letter that you may get from the city or township indicating what your monthly withdrawal is going to be for that year, that is not a property tax bill. Does not have the assessed value, does not have the full annual amount. Another document I get is usually like the second page, which is the installment payment page. Again, missing assessed value, most of the time missing name, usually the address is on there, but I can't accept that either. So again, we need a complete document to be able to present. Okay. Next thing is the mortgage or HELOC statement. So yes, the annual statement is acceptable. That has what you owe, ownership, address. Most banks, the one most commonly I run into is Scotia, and we're not pointing fingers. I'm sure we're all like this. Scotia comes to mind. The internet banking doesn't show the property address. That's okay. You got to show us something with the property address. We need to know what's linked, right? What property does this mortgage belong to, right? Very similar to not having your name on it. It's the same sort of concept. So very important we have a true mortgage statement that has the pertinent details that are required. So okay, next one is really it's a best practice for investors. So with rental income, okay, most banks use rental income on existing properties, obviously, all right, because otherwise no one will be able to afford anything. If you got 3 or 4 mortgages and we're not using rental income, that's a big issue. So we can use rental income, okay? Again, best practices. If you're collecting $1,000 a month, let's just use that because it's a nice round number. If you're collecting $1,000 a month, always, 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 always keep a very clear deposit history of that respective rental income. So don't combine it with, $50 you got from your grandmother at Christmas. Don't combine it with 3 different rental incomes. Keep it clean. Banks and lenders love organized, clear, concise. That helps them determine, is the income verifiable? Is it, quote, lack of a better term, real? Is it there? So make sure your rental income is very, very clearly deposited. If you have a management company, not a problem. Make sure you hire a management company that gives you a monthly consolidation. Okay, banks will often go look at the lease for $1,000, management company statement collecting $1,000, taking in, and I'm making numbers up here, collecting an $80 fee, and then looking for the $920 deposit from that same respective management company to the bank account. Okay, so if you're nice and clear with everything, it saves the mortgage lender, again, being a detective, and it shows the underwriter that you've got control. The rental income is expected to continue. This is so critical. I'll just digress very quickly. I tell all my clients, as a mortgage lender, when I'm dealing with an underwriter or an adjudicator, we get points for presentation. So if we present well and you come off as a client who's very organized, everything's clear, concise, there's no missing rental income because you put it in one account one month and this account in the other, and I'm going to talk about different rental amounts, rental income amounts. That's a good thing. That tells the bank you're on top of things, and that's important. That's very, very important. On the topic of rental income, so if you're collecting $1,000 a month, and please, to the accountants out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've definitely heard this from accountants. If you're collecting $1,000 a month and you give a discount of $50 to clear snow, cut grass, whatever, or the tenant had to purchase a smoke detector, still collect the $1,000, deposit it, and issue an expense check or a fee for clearing snow. Again, if I, or you in this case, have to write on the account history all these explanations for reduced rental income, while it seems organized, it could raise questions. It's clear and concise if it's the same rental income all the time. If you have properties in a holding corporation, this is very, very important, especially in a holding corporation. Make sure that this whole concept of having clear deposit history is present, because, and I'm not here to comment on financial statements because I'm not an accountant, but 9 times out of 10, if you have multiple properties within a holding corporation, the financial statements don't break down the rental income per respective rental property. So we want to be able, as a bank or as a lender, most people, I'm trying to make it as broad as possible, we want to be able to confirm how much each property is bringing in. So if your accountant's putting it all as one rental income amount, that's fine, because I'm pretty sure that's exactly how they're supposed to do it. Again, rare that it's broken down. We still have the job that we have to show the lender what the rental income actually is per respective property. So if you're keeping great records and you've got all that information in there, and I don't have to spend, or you have to spend, hours trying to put it together, that's going to allow your mortgage lender, such as myself, to be able to work on what's important. Okay, so rental income and presenting your rental income, very, very important. Overall, always make sure that everything is clear. Everything leaves very little for interpretation. Okay, when you're presenting, and I'll give you a bit of an insight into my process as a lender. And I think it's important to know that while I'm definitely here to help you and get you to whatever your goals are in real estate, again, whether you're self-employed and you're buying your first house, or you are a seasoned investor, I want to be able to do the best job I can for you. What I always tell people is, I always want all of your documents that I've asked for. Obviously, when you got it, send it to me. However, if I have to ask for the same document over and over, and I can tell that you're just kind of throwing whatever document you can find to try to satisfy what I'm looking for, what often I will do, and this is just because I need to be able to help you the best way that I can, I'll often say, Send me all of your documents and I'll look at all of them at the same time. Because for me, if I have to go back to your file once a day and get my mind back wrapped around your app, which could take as much as 5-10 minutes, which I know doesn't sound a lot, but if you're doing that for 10 clients a day, you can see where your day will kind of, go sideways very fast. So I always tell clients that if you've got your file and you can send it all to me at once, that's the best thing. But if I have to keep asking for the same document over and over and over, you can see where I'll often say, okay, you know what I need, send it all to me. When you get it all to me, then I will do a final review of your file. And that's, again, just because I can't, it's very difficult to do the best job I can for you if I have to keep coming back to your file over and over and over and over again. Okay, so what I would maybe suggest, some recommendations, again, to keep your mortgage person happy. Always, when a property tax bill comes in, scan it. Scan it, save it to your computer. Keep a file, property tax bills for whichever respective file. Mortgage statement, same thing. Save your mortgage statement. A lot of accountants will send you, once they're done your taxes, will send you a summary right away. Mr. and Mrs. Accountant, can you please send me the full T1 General so that it's ready to go? And I think they only send the summary because it's simpler. That's not I'm not here criticizing anyone. That's not an issue. Just ask for the other one as well. I do that with my accountant. Quick shout out to Peter Catini and George Doobie from BDO here in Waterloo. They always send just a summary, and I just go back to them very quickly and say, hey, if you could send this back to me. And I think also I personally went through, I think it was a mini audit where they reviewed all the deductions I submitted for my wife's medical expenses. Because I had everything scanned and ready, I kind of feel bad for the CRA auditor because everything was scanned, everything was ready to go, and I sent in all 100 attachments to him because he or she, I can't remember who it was, but they were questioning. And questioning, when I say questioning, they were verifying. They were not being a pain by any stretch of the imagination. They were verifying all the trips to the doctor, all the pharmacy receipts. I had them. They were scanned, ready to go. I had to wait for a couple of letters that obviously didn't have to be done because it's not something that you would get done in advance, but it was all ready to go, scanned, uploaded, and in on time. So that particular auditor knows I've got control. He or she knows that everything is definitely verifiable. Here's everything for you. And from there, hopefully, haven't heard back yet, but we're going to assume everything should go smoothly. So I think in the electronic age, a lot of phones as well, they have the scanning feature. I use TurboScan on iOS with my iPhone. I think it's like 99 cents, but it's really, really cool. I think Microsoft has a few different ones. So there's a ton of tools available to you to be able to scan docs, save docs. And then as well, most companies are all electronic. So I live in Kitchener. City of Kitchener, I can pop into the online site, download my property tax bill. I can download my water bill. A lot of bills are emailed to you. So there's no reason to not save them when they come in. And then that way, when you're ready to apply for a mortgage, you're good to go. I will say, I don't think it's a negative or anything like when I say this, but arguably, I'm able to do my job better and possibly, if you're an investor, get more mortgages for you if I've got everything in, you're organized, you've got the answers to the questions, that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. Everything I'm saying in this podcast is for your benefit. And if any mortgage lender is going to attest to this, we're able to serve you a little bit better and give you better advice, again, if your documents are in order and you can show that you got definite control over your business, again, if you're self-employed, or your rental properties. So I hope this podcast helps a little bit. I did want to set some context around why the darn bank harasses you for documents. So, because I know it is a tougher one for some people, and I will also say, if you've got a property or two in a holding corporation, a couple in your own name, and you're self-employed, and there's just additional complexity, we're not being a pain asking for everything except your blood type, and we don't want to know your blood type. There's just complexity. You are just more complex. Nothing wrong with that. Just more paper. So, that's just something to be prepared for. That just comes with being self-employed, or an investor who has a complex portfolio. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just something that the bank has to bug you for. So if you have questions on any of this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Obviously, all my information is on social media. My number, 519-500-1789, and my email, steven.green@rbc.com. And more than glad to give any more hints and tips on some of this, and anything I can do to help around advice, experience around making documents easy to get to your mortgage lender. I'm more than glad to help at any time at all. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, we'll talk to you soon. There you go. There's episode 34, How to Keep Your Mortgage Person Happy. So, if you get sent this podcast, you're not keeping your mortgage person happy. So don't forget to follow us. Facebook, Twitter, handles are RBC Stephen Green. Next episode, make sure you tune in. We've got the 2020 market outlook with two fantastic guests. Claire and Sam will be on, and they'll be giving you every piece of investment advice you were always wanting to know about but was afraid to ask. Until next time, we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you for listening to the Green Effect Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Google Play so you catch the next episode. And don't forget to leave a review. Much appreciated.